What's up, everyone, and welcome to Scourge of War Waterloo, episode 35, part 4. And we're continuing with our playthrough of the Battle of Waterloo as the French. And today, the Prussians are coming. The Prussians are coming. Let's roll the video forward here and get this going. However, the Prussians are not coming for another hour. So we still have a little waiting to do and some more supply wagon runs. As that's pretty much all we're waiting on at this point is for the Prussians to arrive. The Allies are still taking their very long siesta behind the ridge there. They seem very happy to lay on their tummies back there and drink tea and do whatever it is they do when not fighting. So we are again just pursuing our La Haye Sant strategy here, where we've taken that one objective and it coughs up 100 points a minute for the entire duration of the game. We captured it very early in the game at about noon, 12 o'clock, and we've held it pretty much the entire time since we've been playing the game and just milking points from it. It's a very simple strategy. And of course I brought a whole bunch of troops up on either side of La Haye Sant in case I do need to defend it, but that has not been the case. We have really just been bombarding the Allies with our artillery on the ridge here, though we have stripped a good portion of that ridge to bolster our ridge of fortresses here. Going all the way down to Place Noire, which is basically set up, and we're waiting for the Prussians. And we do have Jacquinot's cavalry division out front, and their sole purpose is just to disrupt the Prussian approach, so that they really can't bring their guns to bear in any kind of meaningful way. Since the Prussians lead with their cavalry, if we attack their cavalry, their artillery will pretty much turn around and set up further back. The strength of the fortress is in its adaptability to deal with any combination of infantry, skirmishers, or cavalry. However, it wouldn't do so well if the enemy could bring its artillery into any kind of meaningful distance and actually start pounding away on those squares and really putting a hurting on them, and actually be able to inflict meaningful losses on the fortress and start to break it apart. The reason infantry or cavalry can't really do that is because they just can't afford to stay in range to shoot these units up long enough to actually get anything really accomplished, because they're taking canister losses from the battery in the fortress that they get routed before they have enough time to really do any kind of real damage to the fortress. So over time some of that damage can build up, but that's why I keep reserves. If I do need to replace units, I replace them. But artillery, on the other hand, if they could actually bring artillery into range where my units couldn't fire at them, but they could set up and fire at us, that would be one way the AI could possibly break apart a fortress. So whenever I set up something like this, I always make sure I have a way to, well, let's just say, encourage the enemy to deploy their artillery further back, as that's kind of part of the key to making the fortress work. And you guys will see how that works when Jacquinot engages the Prussian cavalry as they arrive. So we are at 29,654 points. We are mere moments away from clipping what we need for a major victory. About 4 or 5 more minutes. You can see we have really bashed this battery up here. Looks like all they got is one gun left. So there's not much left of this battery firing on La Haye Sant. This whole ridge here is pretty much out of artillery. You can see a lot of Bylance's brigade has broken and run now. So as we get later in the battle here, we are really whittling away at the Allies that we can see. There's obviously still a very huge portion of the Allied army hidden behind the ridge. But the ones that are on top of the ridge or on the slope in front, we have really put a hurting on them with our artillery. So yeah, this is the last boring part of this series, as far as just sitting around here and basically racking up points from La Haye Sainte and giving our guns quite the workout, as they have been firing for hours and hours at this point, non-stop. And this monstrosity back here is what we're waiting to unleash on the Prussians. Like some final last minute adjustments here, pushing the skirmishers forward and the square forward, so that one was a little close to the batteries, and in terms of how far back they were towards the batteries, and you always want the squares to be decently out in front of the batteries, so that when approaching cavalry tries to charge the position, there's really no chance of them targeting the guns. They'll target either the skirmishers in front of the square or the square itself, and they can't really charge the guns because the guns are too far back. So really, when the guns unlimber, you want them to kind of move forward to kind of either right up to the back part of the square or right behind it, but you don't want to go much closer than that, because remember, you want to also screen the guns with skirmishers, and they have to go in front of the guns. So there we go. We have just passed 30,000 points. We now have enough points for a major victory. And we got all of that just with La Haye Sainte, but there are still more points to come, because while we'll continue holding La Haye Sainte, a second objective will appear at the crossroads in rear of the church at Place Noir, and that is worth double what La Haye Sainte is worth at 200 points a minute. So the points will start raining from the sky like candy. And as you can see, 25,000 or 26,000 points almost that we've gotten are just from La Haye Sainte, and the rest of those points, about 4,000, are mostly from artillery, from the bombardment. So we can see here another of Bylandt's brigade has taken a hike. They are gone, so it looks like they only have 3 battalions on the ridge now. Yep, 1, 2, 3. So I think he originally had 5, so 2 out of 3 are gone. We've also gotten rid of most of the artillery in rear of La Haye Sainte. We've gotten rid of this Dutch-Belgian unit here. Looks like we've taken out 1 gun from that battery. I think I only counted 5. By all means, double check me. And, oh boy, look at this. I love looking at this. I'll love it even more when we unleash it. So about 20 minutes until the Prussians basically start coming on the map over here, but it takes them like another 25-30 minutes to actually come down and be ready to engage us. So we're just kind of hanging out here, racking up our points, waiting for those Prussians. Not much more to do. Probably already out in the living room looking at the laptop. We got all our guns ready. Most of them have their own supply wagon. A couple of supply wagons will be doing double duty for 2 batteries, but they're just right next to each other, so it should not be that big a deal. The supply wagons are very important when you're going to be using artillery at close range, like what we're going to be doing, because the there goes another one. Who left? These guys right here? Yeah, okay. So, bye, fellas. So yeah, Violent has lost 3 out of 5 battalions. They are heading back there. At least they're retreating in the right direction, unlike some of those cannon we saw earlier. So this battery has almost 500 points. They've been putting in work. So again, this video will be another 2 hours. We're going to take it from 1630 to 1830. So you will get to see a good chunk of the fighting with the Prussians in this video. Some of it will carry over into the next video, which will take from 1830 till the end at 2030. But yeah, a good at least an hour of good fighting you're going to see in this video. Which, since it's a 2-hour video and the Prussians arrive an hour in, you guys watching on YouTube will probably be able to just kind of fast forward to halfway through the video and kind of be right there for when the Prussians arrive. Because I can tell you, between now and then, I don't really have anything interesting to really talk about. Because I'm really out of things to talk about at this point, and I'm also out of things to really do in the game, as it's pretty much all been done at this point. So we really are just waiting for the Prussians. So I'm, pretty much gonna just sit here and ramble and burn through cigarettes like a fireplace through firewood. These guns have really kept up a nice steady rate of fire kind of all through the game. It doesn't appear that like fatigue has really taken a big impact on them. they all seem to be in pretty good shape so far. Alright, you can see we have just lost the objective on La Haye-Sainte. The reason that is because the men inside have now fallen below the threshold in terms of the number of men needed to occupy the position. And we now no longer have enough men inside the fort. So that's why I have all these units back here. We will just send another one in, and they will occupy the fort, and we'll take whatever unit here is the most broken up one, and I think bring them out. There's no reason to have them in there still getting shot. Yeah, these guys have lost 229 men just from being bombarded on by the Allied cannons. So we'll get them out of there. And you can see we have recaptured the objective, and we now have enough men inside the fort once again. So no big deal. It's only a minute rotation on the objective, so all we lost was a minute. So nearly 31,000 points. So yeah, really not much left over here. Out of a 6-gun battery, it looks like they got one gun left. The 95th Rifles are gone out of the gravel pit. Bylance lost 3 out of 5 battalions. I think these guys all here, even though somehow we can see them, I don't think we've really put a large hurting on them. I think they're pretty much behind the ridge. And these 2 batteries over here are probably still shelling the Mont area. I'm not even bothering with those 2 far batteries on the left there. They don't really have any targets. So we've lost about 600 men so far out of 77,000 men. It's nothing. And we've inflicted about 3,500 casualties on the Allies, mostly through artillery fire. And we're just staring down the road, waiting for those Prussians. They are taking their sweet time. And again, I have Jacquinot's division, or both of his brigades anyway. I have them under AI control. You'll notice their flag is not yellow. And I have them set to hold. So basically, they will not do anything until the Prussians actually come to within engage distance of them, at which point they will begin their attack on the Prussian cavalry. And again, I'm not trying to win. I'm just trying to disrupt their approach and make them make them set their artillery up, much further back from, where they would like to bring it, so that my guns are going to be able to inflict maximum damage as the infantry and the cavalry come forward, but their guns will be too far away to really do anything. And once that's accomplished, I will just pull Jacquinot's division back behind the fortress ridge here. So climbing ever higher, 31,250 points. And we're only about 10 minutes away from getting our from our Place Noire objective appearing. However, like I said, I hadn't played this scenario in quite a while because it's just not a scenario I play a lot, because it's very easy to win. There's really no challenge to it, and it's just about, a test of endurance of, sitting through the boredom for 9 hours. So I had forgotten that the Place Noire objective in this scenario appears at the crossroads behind the church. I was so used to the divisional trilogy at Place Noire that we covered in the division series of Forward 16th Brigade, the Young Guard, and Meet the Old Guard, where it was actually the church that was the objective. So I guess I had that in my head, thinking the church would be the objective here too. But it's not. It's right behind the church on the crossroads, so I don't immediately have it occupied. So when it pops up and I see it there, I just bring the chasseurs of the Imperial Guard up to sit there and occupy it. And that's pretty much all they do for the whole battle. I did not have to use the Imperial Guard, being that they are the last resort, the best troops Napoleon has. If I don't have to use them, I don't. That's why I have them, way far back in reserve. Last resort. If somehow, by some miracle, the Prussians were able to crack through this, they still have many layers of defense to get through before they got to the Imperial Guard. But yeah, it would take a miracle of the highest order for the Prussians to break through this, because the amount of casualties they're going to sustain in trying to even approach it with all these guns at close range is going to be ridiculous. It looks like we've taken out a lot of guns over here too. I see, like, a smattering of guns here and there, but definitely has been reduced a lot. I am just itching for the Prussians to get here at this point. So yeah, like I said, pretty boring stuff. Here's an example of how high that ridge is and that my guns are set up on, and you can see my line troops behind it actually can't even see over it, and so the Allied units certainly can't see them, because they're very well hidden behind this ridge that my guns are set up on. As we have a little close range view here of our batteries firing away. Here's our boys at Ulai Hassan, and there's our skirmisher unit that has lost one man. Not bad. And our other one that hasn't lost any. And when you see me clicking on units like this, I'm just checking losses. That was the unit we had inside La Haye-Sainte for a long time, and that's why they took a lot of losses. And boy, have they been reduced. And I'm just switching the order here because if I'm going to end up putting another unit into La Haye-Sainte later on, it's certainly not going to be those guys who have been very, very reduced. It'll be a much bigger battalion. So I'm just having them switch spots. So almost 32,000 points. Oh, this is definitely a break. Cursor sitting in the middle of the screen, not moving. Centered on Napoleon here. Yeah, I definitely went off somewhere. You know, this is pretty boring, just sitting here waiting for the Prussians. But you know what? You guys have it easy. You guys can just fast forward through to the good part. I have to sit here through all of this. So about 5 minutes until we get the courier message that the Prussians are on the way and the Plassenois objective appears. And that's probably all I am waiting for at this point. And I'm back. So 32,000 points now. And almost there, guys. Almost there. Hang in there. Like I said, it takes a certain amount of lameness to truly play this cheap. You really have to be committed to it. You know what I mean? You know, you have to be mentally tough enough to play this cheap. And say, nope, no matter what, I am not going to do anything. I'm going to sit here and camp like as cheap as I can possibly be. You know, because it's tempting. You see all these, you know, victory point objectives all over the field, and you know, it is tempting to go for them, especially when you're just really bored. So, you know, like I said, it takes a certain mental toughness to really play this cheap. You know, for no other reason that you would get to do something. So, 5 o'clock is approaching. I'm expecting we're going to get the Prussians fairly soon. So I'm getting one last round of supply wagon runs out of the way. So, because I know I'm going to be pretty much focused on this part of the field, for at least the next hour, hour and a half, and not really paying too much attention to anything going on over here. Which is fine. Like I said, I'm pretty confident that the Allies are just going to sit there and continue their nap, and I'll be able to deal with the Prussians kind of without being distracted by anything the Allies are doing. So we've really got our nice arrow-shaped defense set up here. Good interior lines. We've pulled everything. We had our left flank all the way out here, our right flank all the way out here, and we've really bent everything back into, like I said, it looks kind of like a horseshoe. And we're able to shift troops from one side to the other very quickly. We have a defense in depth all set up back here, pretty much cavalry and artillery and the fortresses and kind of everything. But here we go. I think we're about to get our courier message letting us know that the Prussians have been sighted and are on their way. All right, Votre Majesté, a large force approaching from the east. Judging from the black flags, they look to be Prussian. Holding the town of Plassanois is now vital to protecting our right. And it apparently is from Marshal Grouchy, who commands the right wing, who at this point is at Wavre. So I don't know how he is able to tell us that the Prussians are approaching from the east, considering he's miles away at Wavre. However, there is a variant in this scenario where Grouchy does actually appear. I did not get it here. In fact, I've never gotten any variant for any scenario where any variants can appear. So here's the objective at Plassanois. As I said, it appears at this crossroads here. So I thought it was the church. That's why I had a unit in the church. We need 500 men within a radius of 100 yards for 200 points a minute. Okay, no problem. Who do we grab? Well, I was thinking about using cavalry at first, just to hold it, but I end up just going with the chasseurs. Just bring them all up. Yeah, I'm just thinking about where exactly I want to put them, because I want to put them within range of the objective, but I don't want to put them anywhere where they're necessarily going to be involved in a fight right away. So the Prussians are arriving now, and we're just waiting for them to make it down here. And like I said, that takes, I think, around 25-30 minutes. Since we only need 500 men, I'm just going to bring the chasseurs up kind of back behind the lines, and I'll just move the leader and one unit, whatever unit is over 500 men, and just move them over to the crossroads. Because like I said, I'm expecting to be hit, here, not really back here. The Prussians kind of come down this way, I believe. So this is the area, obviously the thickest part of the fortress, the most guns, the most reserve battalions, where I have the most cavalry. So that's obviously where I expect the Prussians to really hit. So just waiting for them to show up now. And like I said, they're going to lead with their cavalry and some artillery. And we're going to do our best to engage them with Jacquinot's cavalry and turn as many guns around as we can so that they are not deployed in such a way that they're really able to threaten us. So they still have one gun over here. How we doing? 32,800 points. And yeah, like I said, I'm just trying to get the last of my supply wagon runs done here before the Prussians actually show up. And then I have to pay attention to what's going on over there, and not so much what's going on over here. You can see on the map the chasseurs here heading for their position over here, and they will occupy that objective. And here come the chasseurs. My God, that's a lot of troops. So they're on their way, but we can't, of course, spot them on the map until one of our units can actually see them. So even though they're coming, we can't see them yet. Still inching along there, just crossed 33,000 points. This will really start going up once we actually get the Plassanois objective too. And as you can see, the chasseurs are crossing through the town now to take up their position. So not too long now, guys, probably about 15-20 minutes until we start seeing the first sign of the Prussians arriving. And boy, if I was coming down this road and I started to see what was in front of me, I would have turned right around. So the chasseurs are moving into position to occupy the objective. And while that's happening, guys, I'm going to run to the fridge. I'll be right back. Alright guys, I am back, and what do we have here? We have some Prussians. I see some cavalry making their way down the road. So here we go, guys. The Prussians are on their way. And here is Jacquinot's division all set up and waiting for them. And we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna let the AI handle this. It doesn't need to be done with any kind of real precision. I'm just kind of trying to engage and disrupt them. Alright, so Morand has made it to the objective. Now we just need to grab whatever unit is over 5. That's perfect. Just 500 men, 545. Just move them over there just to be in range of the objective. And we can now on the map see the Prussians coming down the road. And yeah, that's close enough. You just need to be in range. So we now have the Plassenois objective. That's going to give us another 200 points a minute. And here come the Prussians. So why aren't I moving forward and engaging them further out? Why am I just sitting here waiting for them? Well, because I'm not sure where the artillery is yet. And once I see the artillery, you know, that's kind of when I know where it is. If I go and engage them now and their artillery is further back and the fight is over by the time their artillery arrives, I haven't really done anything to turn their guns around, have I? I've just engaged their cavalry. So I really want to see that the guns are with them. And I can see them starting to come out of the woods now. These are definitely guns back here. So let's let the cavalry approach closer and the guns come with them so that when we engage them, the guns actually turn around. Because that's really the whole point of this, is making the artillery turn around. Now, I don't care about the cavalry. I just want to engage them to make the guns turn around. So now, as you can see, the entire fortress is unlimbering, and very shortly the pain will begin. You can see the guns are mostly in the woods coming in behind the cavalry. So they're pretty close. And you can see we've already gotten some hits on the Prussian cavalry. You can see some infantry moving in way behind here. So at first we just have to deal with cavalry. And like I said, we are set up on a ridge here between Plassenois and Durland. So we have a pretty good field of fire. All our guns, I think, have unlimbered at this point and are starting to bombard. You can see the explosions going off kind of everywhere. You can see we've already scored some hits. See some dead horses on the ground. But this is only the beginning, fellas. This is only the beginning. And the Prussians are moving to within engaged distance shortly of this brigade. And as you see, they are starting to move off on their own, or getting ready to anyway. They've certainly come within engaged distance. However, like I said, I'm not in charge here. I'm letting the AI handle this. So some of their troops are starting to move off. I have this brigade over here so that once this brigade is kind of ready to be pulled out, I can hit them again with a separate brigade. So the reason I have them over here is so that these units don't come within engaged distance of both brigades right away. I want to kind of save this one. All right, here we go. So I'm just going to click on Gorbrecht's brigade here and just monitor his progress and see how he does. He's ordered a general advance here, and so far they're doing excellent. They're kicking the crap out of the Prussians. And more Prussian units are joining the fray, and more French units are joining the fray. We're quickly, some of our units are withdrawing. Like I said, this was not meant to, but you can see we're turning the guns around. The guns are not continuing to advance here, and that's kind of the main point. So we're still doing good. We've definitely inflicted way more casualties on the Prussians than they have on us, but they do outnumber us, and this is not going to last long. You can see all our guns have unlimbered at this point. They are all firing. So, okay, the Prussians are starting to get the better of us here, but we're countercharging now with another squadron. And you can see the Prussian guns have begun to unlimber, but they're really far away. And this is kind of what I wanted. I wanted them back here, not near the fortresses. Back here where they're doing no good to anybody. And here comes a second wave of guns along with some infantry. And I'm just checking my squares to make sure that that artillery is indeed far enough away where they're not putting a heavy pounding on the squares. But this is pretty good. This is pretty far away. And you can see these guns are now turning around. This is all what this is about. This is about turning the guns around, not about beating the cavalry. About turning the guns around. The infantry has stopped while the cavalry engagement is going on here. So let me see how we're doing here. So we've got about 300 points. We're doing okay. But as I said, the Prussians generally are bringing more cavalry onto the field than we are. This is just one brigade. So in a little while, we'll start seeing if we can pull our units back. So here we got another charge going. These guys are in pretty good shape. They're trying to hit a Prussian unit. Let's see what happens here. Oh well, I switched to a cannon. Alright, so I'm withdrawing the gun battery to get them out of there because the Prussians are getting pretty close. And instead we're going to now bring De Bruno's brigade over and have them engage the Prussian cavalry. While we pull the other brigade out now, which has seen its share of action pretty quickly. They did good though. They got all these guns to set up all the way back here where they're absolutely no good to the Prussians. And you can see lots of dead cavalry, horses, and men on the field there. Alright, so this is Gorbrecht's brigade. We're going to take charge now and actually start trying to bring some of his units back. I set their destination and then immediately TC'd them so that they would not be distracted. Some of these units are doomed because they're just stuck too far out there and there's nothing I can do about it. But that's okay. They did their job well. The main thing was that they got the Prussian guns to set up far away from where they should be. And we still have another fresh cavalry brigade to engage here. Now the Prussians are trying to run these French units off the field, but they're heading the wrong direction. Because look what they're coming towards. No good, boys. You're running yourself up onto a fortress. And look at these heroes. They turn around and start charging them. Unbelievable. Oh, you gotta love the French cavalry. Nutcases. Oh, okay. I'm gonna have to rescue them from their own bravery. Come on, boys. Back you go. Yeah, these stupid skirmishers here must not have been TC'd, and they're running off on their own. So I'm going to have to TC them and put them back where they belong, in front of the gun battery here. But here's our another brigade. Our first brigade did a great job of breaking up that first wave of cavalry. But yeah, I have to rescue them from their own bravery now, and yeah, I did not have these skirmishers TC'd, and so they, on their own initiative there, they decided, no, let's just go out in the middle of the field and stand there, rather than screen the guns like we're supposed to. This is why I TC everything, because otherwise they do dumb stuff. These guys are also had their own idea of what they wanted to do. Yeah, some of these like reserve units I had never gotten around to TCing because they're just they're reserve units, and I hadn't actually set them up inside the fortress, so I never bothered to TC them. So some of them are kind of moving around on their own now, but I'll take care of that in a minute. So we're pulling our 1st Brigade of Cavalry back here, Gobrecht's brigade. He had what, 5 battalions? 1, 2, 3, 4. So it doesn't look like any of them have been captured or surrendered, because I still have 5 placement arrows for them. And he came away with about 200 points. Lost a lot of men, killed a lot of men. But they accomplished their objective. The guns are nowhere near us. They're all the way back here. And we're in good shape. Our fortresses will not really have to contend with the Prussian artillery, which of course is always the goal with the fortress. You only want to have to deal with infantry, skirmishers, and cavalry. So Moran's already got 2,000 points from that objective in a couple of minutes. So as you can see, the points are going to really rocket up there really fast. So, all right, here we have some Prussian cannon that are trying to advance. And this is what we don't want. We don't want to see the Prussian guns get this close. So I'm actually going to TC 1 squadron. I'm going to leave the rest of this brigade on TC to deal with the cavalry, but we're going to deal with 1 squadron here and just send them off in this direction just to turn the guns around. I don't really care about capturing them. There might be opportunities for that later on, but right now they're coming too close, and I don't want that. So while guns are limbered, they cannot unlimber within range of any enemy units. So since they're limbered, I can just kind of go right near them, and they'll turn right around. Like I said, you saw me do something very similar in some of the Ligny scenarios at Saint Armand with skirmishers. Send them out to come within engage distance, and they will just turn right around. Now, obviously, there's some Prussian cavalry right here. I'm not really getting a chance to charge these guns, but I just want them to turn around. And most of them are doing that diligently. Meanwhile, the rest of our brigade is moving forward. They may capture some guns. And we're bringing our boys back. They did their job. The guns are turning around. Good. Let's get back in business over here. So a lot of Prussian cavalry is coming down the field. We are no match for this amount of cavalry. But we're just going to disrupt them. You know, get ourselves in a little fight and then get out of there and let them come and try and deal with these fortresses. The main point is we have turned all the guns around. I just didn't want them to come up in here, you know, and be able to set up and start bombing away on these squares. That's how you can take a fortress down. So as long as you can stop them from bringing their guns to any kind of meaningful distance, we'll be in good shape. So, okay, we are engaged with the the Prussian cavalry here. And Bruno's not doing bad either. He's got 233 points. He's starting to lose them now. Like I said, we are really outnumbered here. Back up, and we're scoring more points. So Bruno's doing pretty good. Back up to 330 points. And again, I'm not carrying out this attack. The AI is. I gave him hold orders, and then he's acting on his own once the enemy came within engaged distance of him. Now, over here, I have the skirmisher unit deployed too far back. They're actually kind of standing in line with the guns. They need to move a little further forward so that they're actually screening the guns. I'm sure I catch that before the Prussians arrive. But every other battery, see how the skirmishers are in front of the guns? This is how you want it. Because the skirmishers will screen the guns so that if any infantry comes within range to start shooting, they don't really hit the artillery, they hit the skirmishers. So skirmishers, like I said in the last episode of the Grog Toolbar Demystified, by putting skirmishers in front of everything like this, screening everything, it's kind of like the Starship Enterprise putting up its shields. And the skirmishers are basically our shields. Alright, so we're going to move Gobrecht over a little bit. Bruno is kicking butt. He's up to 426 points. Remind me to suggest to the Emperor that he deserves a commendation. So these Prussian guns here are set up a little further forward than I would like, but not too bad. You know, they're still 400, 500 yards away. I can live with that. I just don't want them up in here. But, I mean, pretty good. We got them to mostly turn around and be further back than they would like to be. You know, they say no plan of battle survives contact with the enemy, so I didn't expect it to be perfect, but it's close enough. So here we have one of our routed cavalry units. Off they go, back to Paris. At least they're going in the right direction. Bruno is starting to get his butt kicked a little bit, but he keeps fighting. He keeps fighting. Look at him. So we're up to almost 40,000 points here. As I said, once we captured the Placido objective, the points were going to start really going up fast. So we're almost 10,000 points ahead of what we need for a major victory now. And the Prussians still haven't reached the fortress line yet. They're still tangling with our cavalry. And Bruno is still hanging on here, but he's in basically full retreat at this point. So I'm thinking maybe like right about around now we should start pulling him out. I'm more than happy at this point with all the artillery deployed back here to let the cavalry come forward and tangle with these fortresses and get blown to pieces. We've already scored 300 points with this battery, although I think that was a battery that was on the Grand Battery, so I think that's where they got most of their points from. So, okay, here we go. The French are falling back, but now the fortress is here. So we're going to see if we can bait a cavalry charge here and recall the skirmishers. So we're recalling the skirmishers now, and the Prussian cavalry is going to have to stop because here is a square and the guns are going to start pulverizing them. Looks like the square is actually meleeing the cavalry. So there they go. They've withdrawn. Some of our guns in that battery actually limbered up to get ready to get out of there, but the cavalry was repulsed, and they'll unlimber again, no problem. So we bring the skirmishers back up to screen the guns, and the squares will fire away. You can see some canister blowing away on them, and yeah, this is how it works. So we bring the skirmishers back up to rescreen the guns. And you can see the infantry starting to file out of the woods here. But mostly we're still just dealing with cavalry here. And at this point I'm trying to get Bruno's brigade out. He's already lost one battalion. As you can see, I only have 4 placers. So that battalion we saw routing up here must have been one of his squadrons. But we're trying to get the rest of these guys off the line now. At this point, we'll let the fortresses now do their job. So as you can see, as the cavalry is advancing, they're just getting hit. They're just getting ripped apart by these guns that are firing canister at them and blowing huge chunks in their lines. There's nothing they can do, because if they're going to charge, the squares are the closest. The square is the closest thing to them. So they kind of come forward and stand here, and they don't really know what to do. So there they are, and they just turn around. Now where it gets interesting is when some of this infantry back there starts to come up too, and then you'll start to see some more interesting situations. Right now we're just dealing with cavalry. This is easy. The squares are, you know, force fields that they can't penetrate for all practical purposes. Really, I'm just trying to get Bruno's cavalry the hell out of here, because they're kind of getting in the fortress's way now. But most of them have made it back behind the lines now. This is just Prussian cavalry out here, and they're kind of stuck. They don't know what to do. Oh, we got another squadron routed. So I think Bruno's down to 3. That's okay. You know what? He still deserves his medal. He did a great job. They both did. Jacquinot's whole division did an excellent job. So I'll tighten this formation up now, because I've lost a battalion, a squadron. So we're only down to 3. But in no way disappointed with Jacquinot. His division did well. So now the Prussians are all clustered, messed up, and disorganized, and they got to get themselves together before they can even think about approaching the fortresses. And the cavalry is out in front, but they haven't the slightest idea what to do. Let's just straighten these skirmishers out a little bit. Now, in this instance with the cavalry, the skirmishers in front of the squares are just bait. So the ones that already don't have skirmishers, I don't bother replacing them. The ones that do, I'm just baiting the cavalry to try and come in and charge them. These guys are just getting bombed on by canister. Oh, look at this! I moved these guys out of the. Where are they going? Get back where you belong. Yeah, double quick. Get back where you belong. There's a lot of cavalry out there. So we have a Prussian skirmisher unit out here who are staying at a distance, probably to avoid taking canister fire. So we have basically a skirmisher unit tangling with a skirmisher unit at kind of far distance. Nothing, no big deal. And I've brought in some of my reserve units a little further forward, just in case I need them. So here we come. This is what I'm talking about. They're charging the skirmishers. We're going to hit that recall button. As soon as they get close, they're going to stop to reform and get pounded. And here they go. So that completely messes up the charge, because once you recall them, they're no longer valid targets. Their flag immediately disappears. And now they're stuck in front of the square, reforming, while the square shoots them at them. And maybe we can get a canister shot on them or two before they retreat, which would be great. So there's nothing they can do to the square. The square's just ripping them. And there they go. We didn't even get a canister shot. Chickens. Oh well. There's plenty more ducks to shoot in the river. Alright, so the infantry is advancing on the right, the Prussian right, our left here. And the cavalry is mostly on the right. This is actually good. The less we have to deal with combined formations of infantry and cavalry, the better. So if we can keep the cavalry on the right side and the infantry on the left side, it'll make things a whole lot easier. So now that the cavalry has withdrawn, we can just kick out the skirmishers again and send them back in front of the square. Did I not tell you this, guys? This was cheap? The only thing you really got to keep an eye out on is once a lot of units get in close range, is the batteries, and just make sure you keep them in supply of canister, because it runs out really quick, especially on like the howitzers where they only have like 7 or 8 rounds. They'll blow through that in a minute or two. So here come the infantry. They are sending out some skirmishers. Not a bad move. And the cavalry is continuing to move off to the our right here. So, I mean, that's excellent if we can keep the Prussian cavalry on one side of the field and the Prussian infantry on the other side of the field, and engage them separately. That's beautiful. I didn't plan that. That just seems, that just seems to be how it's developing. But I'm happy about it. So a Prussian cavalry unit here has moved into canister range, taken a taste of it, and decided they don't want any part of it. And the Prussian skirmishers have advanced. And, here is the problem. You can come to about within this range of the fortress and try and shoot it out with us, but you really can't come in any closer, because then you start getting pounded by the canister. And that is the whole problem. As you can see, these skirmishers are already getting pounded by it. Now, canister doesn't have the same effect on skirmishers that it does on a line unit or a column. Ooh, we better recall these guys. Let's do it. All right, so again, the skirmishers are acting as bait. The cavalry has come into charge, lost its target, and now they are F-U-C-K-E-D. So they're right in front of a square, and off they go, leaving some horsies behind on the ground for their trouble. So the infantry is moving in. and the canister fire is ripping into them. So I've got my assault columns right behind the squares. So if these units charge the skirmishers, charge the squares, and actually get through it, they get countercharged. That's the whole idea. And here they come. We're going to recall the skirmishers, bait the charge, and they should stop to reform, and the squares will, and the artillery will keep shooting at them. And what a mess we're making of some of these units. You can see more charges happening over here. So the skirmishers will get run off from time to time. That's just part of the game. But really, the whole thing here is blasting these guys with artillery. So we're hitting this unit now. Now, even though a line unit is going to shred a square, it's okay, because these guys aren't going to be around long enough to really do the square in, because this artillery is going to start pounding them to pieces. So we've got a melee going on here, and I've got a line unit up behind them. Now, there's no cavalry around here, so being in square is not such a huge deal over here. Even over here, I could probably form line on these guys, but I should know where the closest cavalry is. So, all right, the Prussians are withdrawing. The canister fire is certainly making it hard to be in a sustained melee. And we're going to withdraw this unit a little bit. You can see running some of these skirmishers off. This unit's already pulling back. Boom. I mean, that's devastating, guys. Devastating. Look at the hole we just blew in this unit. You know, sure, yeah, my square is definitely not getting the best of it. But I'm going to actually put them in line now. So, okay, now we're fighting on even terms. The cavalry's too far away to make me stay in square. This is what I mean by saying the fortress is adaptable. And we're just ripping these units apart with canister fire. I mean, it's devastating what we're doing to these Prussian units. So now my boys are in line. They're no longer they're no longer at much of a disadvantage. And these Prussian units are just getting strafed with canister fire. So, all right, now we got some infantry moving up with the cavalry. So now we might get some more interesting situations. Over here, this is just a piece of cake. There's nobody forcing me to form square, and I can't even count the amount of canister shots we're firing. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Credit to these Prussian units here for standing here and taking this. I mean, this is terrible. So we got more cavalry coming forward, but again, nothing they can do. The squares are basically blocking them. And I'm just keeping the supply wagons going all the time to keep the batteries and canister. And just keep letting it rip. And, you know, there's really no safe haven. There's nowhere for them to approach where there's not a gun battery. They're everywhere. You know, here, all down the line. There's nowhere for them to approach where they're not going to come under that close-range artillery fire. And it's just whittling their units down to nothing. There they go. I mean, they stood a lot longer than I expected them to. Brave lads, every one of them. But you can't stand under that for that long. Your unit will just get blown to pieces. So the first wave is kind of getting beaten back here. They have another wave approaching. Didn't I tell you guys this would be worth waiting for? So, looks like we have a fresh regiment of 3 battalions approaching. as well as some infantry in the center here. More cavalry kind of sitting back here. Not sure what they're waiting for. But these units are almost done. They're just getting blown to pieces. So this square here is kind of the dividing line between where the cavalry is and where the infantry is. Now this would have been interesting before if the Prussian cavalry had held back and waited for this infantry, but they didn't. They got blown apart, and now it's only infantry approaching. So more cavalry in the center here. They just kind of come up and stop because they don't know what to do. Squares are blocking them, the artillery is just pulverizing them, and they have to turn around. We have another column advancing, or they're retreating. Looks like they're retreating. It's tough, man. It's tough to advance against this. You got to be damn brave just to deploy in front of it. A couple of skirmisher units here that are not TC'd. Yeah, this first wave is really being battered hard. So, now I think this is a better plan for the Prussians. They're not just coming forward with what they've got. They're building up a force in the center here, and then hopefully the plan is for them to advance in a more combined form than what they did in the first wave here. Now the fortress is fully capable of handling a combined attack, but it's definitely more interesting. Alrighty, so here comes some infantry. Now again, no cavalry. I can afford to form line with some of these boys. You know, these squares here are kind of holding the cavalry in the center. So I'm changing to line. Again, this is just the adaptability of the fortress. It can kind of work in a whole multitude of different situations. So now I've got some skirmishers that I'm bringing up in front of this line here. And kick out some more, probably to screen this line. And that's the beauty of recalling the skirmishers, is you can just kick out new ones, and it's kind of an endless supply because the ones you recall go back to the unit, and then you just kick them out from the same unit. So all right, here come these Prussians. They're going to charge the skirmishers. We recall them, breaks up the charge, gives us time to shoot at them while pounding them with artillery. And we've got plenty of reserves right back here. And we're firing at these guys in column. They're probably going to form line. So it looks like they're starting to advance their kind of second wave here. Now here we got some cavalry and infantry approaching. So this is how it gets interesting. So the infantry will come forward, and I'm already on top of it. I didn't even get a chance to tell you guys about it. I'm too quick. Alright, so I'm bringing, basically, this unit is going to form line to start to shoot this cavalry, to shoot this square up. And I can't form line now because this Prussian cavalry is too close. So I'm going to bring my own cavalry forward to force these guys into square. So at least these two units are shooting at each other in kind of equal states. And again, just more adaptability of the fortress. And one of the key ways I use cavalry within the context of the fortress is to just not to use them as in a charge way, but just to force them to make other units form square. And that's what's going to go on over here. So yeah, right now this unit is ripping up this square. But once we bring the cavalry within charge range, this unit will have to form square. So we got a charge, skirmishers are being run off, but we got two line units here, and our artillery is going to pound these bozos. And now I just got to find the right place to put these guys. And there they go. Now they're forming square, and we're even Stevens over here. But what do I have? What do I have? I have guns. They don't. So we'll be able to rape this square now. So we've got some lines shooting it out at very close range here, but the canister fire is the difference maker, not the line units. And I gotta keep up on the supply wagon runs because, you know, these howitzers, they run out of canister really quickly. So these guys are definitely getting the worst of it, as they were in square for a while, and these Prussian units. The one thing I will say for the Prussian line units is they generally have more men. So in a straight up line versus line situation, a lot of times they'll get the better of the French units because they just have more muskets. As I'm sure this, but really it's about that. It's about the canister fire. Everything else is like almost inconsequential because we're not losing anywhere near as many men as they are when you factor in the close range artillery fire. I mean, war is a bloody business. We're going to lose men, but we're not losing it to the degree they are. And now we forced a second unit into square, just with this one cavalry squadron, just sitting here. And I have no intention of using them to charge, only to force these units into square. Alright, so one of these units has surrendered. We got another one up here. But we're still plastering these Prussian units with canister. And I'm bringing another reserve unit up, almost 600 men, great size unit. And I'm also bringing more cavalry up. As you can see, some of these units are now breaking. And these units are getting it in the flank. They're getting it from both sides. They're getting it from this battery, and they're getting it from this battery. So who knows how much longer they're going to stand. And I still have plenty of reserves to cycle in some of these units that are not getting the best of it. The main thing is that they're protecting the guns, and the guns are just ripping apart these units. You know? And as you can see, the guns are doing great. They're not running away. They're not routing. They're not losing too many artillerymen. They're well protected. And I'm going to bring Bowden's brigade over, just to buff the line a little bit. Because I am starting to use up some of my reserves. So the heaviest fighting is in here. So we'll just bring Bowden's brigade from Bonaparte's division of Ryle's Corps over here. So we have another set of reserves. They'll take a while to get here, but I obviously didn't wait till I was down to my last reserve unit to do this. You know, I still have reserve units that are not involved yet. Back here, you know, plenty of reserve units, but you know, I just want to make sure I have you know, reserve units for kind of any contingency. So we're down to one unit over here. There was one. I guess they fell back. There they go. They're routed. That is not a withdrawal. That is a rout. So the square's not getting the best of it, but they're not doing too bad. Most of that was from when this unit was in line formation. Now that they have formed square, it's not so bad. And now their cavalry is gone, so I can form line. But they can't, and they're getting hit with canister. I mean, this is how it works, guys. This kind of instant adaptability is what makes the fortress so stupid. It's just ready for anything. And this unit that was up here has fallen back. This one has fallen back. You know, brave lads, but you really can only take this for so long. So this Prussian cavalry unit was better off over here, where it could keep me in square, and now it's moved over here. It's keeping this unit in square, but now this unit has gotten to form line. And the Prussians are trying to send skirmishers out to equalize the situation. No problem, guys. I'm down with that. Let's get some skirmishers going. Here we go. And yeah, you guys have to deal with canister fire. I don't. But they did nonetheless give me a great idea. Let's put some skirmishers in front of this line unit and screen them. So this whole thing has been beaten off. So now it's starting to flare up a little bit over here. Got more skirmisher units coming out. Put these guys right here in front of these fellas, and we should really start shooting the square up. This line is they got to be close to done. They got to be. They're eating canister left and right. Half their numbers on the ground. There they go. And no, guys, I don't have this stuff memorized. It just I could tell. I could tell by how many men were just blasted out of that unit that it was very, very close to routing. So again, now we've got this unit forced into square, with skirmishers shooting at them, with artillery shooting at them. Oh, the humanity. So these guys are advancing to try and give it another shot. These guys are only down by 3 points, so these guys held up really well. It was a bloody battle, but it was about even. But they're a little small now, so we got a 400-man unit. We'll advance to take their position. I'm not going to advance them too much because we want the Prussian unit to come within range of the canister of the close-range artillery. So more cavalry coming up. We're going to play the force you into square game. You know, and by being able to keep everything even Stevens as far as, you know, squares versus squares and line versus line and skirmishers versus skirmishers, I still will always have the advantage no matter what the situation is, because it's not even Stevens, because I have the guns. And that was the whole purpose in making all their artillery deploy back here where it's of absolutely no use to them. Their guns aren't helping them in the slightest. They're too far away. So now we've got this unit stuck in square right in front of skirmishers, right in front of line units, in front of batteries. They're going to get pulverized. And got another skirmisher unit coming out to screen these guys. I mean, the glory is real here. So they'll start to engage that line. So this square is actually back up in points now. Not by much, but they're up in points. And how's Moran doing? Up to almost 10,000 points. Oh, these objectives. Absolutely crazy. Who the hell are these bozos? Are they routing from the other side of the field? Yeah, that must be a unit. I know what that is. That is a unit that routed out of La Haye Sainte. You can tell by the casualties. So I'm guessing we've lost control of La Haye Sainte. And that's exactly what happened. They routed out of La Haye Sainte. No problem. Send in another unit. So yeah, thanks for routing in that direction, guys. You let me know that La Haye Sainte was in trouble. All right, so we have a routed unit. They put up a good fight, but we'll send some more skirmishers forward to screen this unit and screen the cavalry here that's keeping this unit in square. These guys are taking a hike. The square is in trouble. The artillery is right here. Oh boy, oh boy. I hate to run really quick, guys, but I gotta make a fridge trip. But by all means, keep watching the devastation here. I'll be right back. All right, fellas, I am back. How are we doing here? 53,000 points. The Fortress is still making mincemeat out of everybody. Love it, love it. And this unit is starting to get touched on now because they got skirmishers out in front here. And yeah, I can't really do anything about it because they're protected by cavalry. But in the long run, it's okay. You know, when these other units get pounded to the degree that they have to withdraw, then I can get them out of there. You know, and like I said, I have reserves, man. If these squares get too shot up, I'll replace them. And this situation has been rescued. You can see much of the fortress up near up near Papillote. This area is not even engaged. But we got more infantry on the way. Bring it on. Let's have at it. Here's Bowden's brigade on the way, so we have more reserves. And I'm just going to move one of these cavalry brigades, and just to get some more cavalry units closer, move them up. Vino's brigade here, he's got 3 battalions. That should be enough. You know, I use squadron. Sorry, I keep saying battalion. Because I really use them just one squadron at a time, just to place them in spots where they'll make units form square. That's really all I'm doing with them. Just so that I can bomb on them with like the artillery, just like that. See? Stuck forming square. So we have, at least 2 Prussian regiments coming down here. Let the fun begin. Let's grab some more cavalry so we can force these units into square as they come up. And just letting the canister rip. So these guys have formed line, but they're kind of far back. I don't know if I really need to worry about them. Oh, just ripping it square to pieces. Now, it looks like this cavalry unit has pulled a little further back, so maybe I can sneak out with my cavalry and charge the skirmishers. Got more infantry moving out on the right. Some big Prussian lines in the center here, but they're these units, everything is screened by skirmishers here nicely, so that shouldn't really present that big an issue. And you can see these squares that I'm forcing these units into the square, and they just don't last long. What's going on over on my left? There was a lot of infantry heading over there, wasn't there? I should probably go take a look at that. So yeah, these guys are still losing men, but they're still over 500 men. But now that the cavalry has backed up, I can form line. That changes everything. Of course, now the Prussians are attempting to form line. But artillery is still pounding away at them. Pounding away. Ooh, and now you're going to eat it in the flank, too? Muchas gracias. All right, so here come the Prussians. Now a little bit more of our fortresses being engaged on our left. Turn the skirmishers to face them. There's a good screen we got going here. No problemo. And the canister immediately opens on them. And there's really no substitute for that kind of firepower. Like I said, artillery within 200 yards is the meta of the whole game. So Bowden's brigade has just about made it over. Now, Rob, why did you bring Bowden's brigade all the way over from the other side of the field when you had the Imperial Guard right there at Plassenois? Well, I don't want to use the Imperial Guard. It's a point of pride to not have to use the Imperial Guard. Alright, so we got more columns coming. Bring it on, fellas. Bring it on. We're ready. Take control of these skirmishers here and have them face the lines. Alright, so now we got some cavalry moving out on the right and also on the right here. So maybe things will start developing over here. There isn't much left in the way of infantry here, but if these guys can hold themselves together, the cavalry can come forward, run off my skirmishers, force me into square, and then, you know, maybe I'd have to bring up some cavalry to force the infantry into square. There's always an answer. You know, it's basically a big game of rock, paper, scissors. You know, but, you know, they really only have rock and paper. I have scissors. This is scissors right here. The gun batteries. You know. So no matter what they throw out, I always have something to put on top of it. Alright, so here we go. We're forming square, and we're going to bring some artillery up. I mean, cavalry up. Now this unit has two choices. If it wants to come forward and like it's doing now, to actually make shooting up this square worth it, then it's going to get forced into square by the cavalry. If it stays back so it doesn't have to form square, it's not going to be as effective. So in the meantime, while this cavalry is just sitting here, I'm going to screen the square with my skirmishers and fire directly at this line unit that is now close enough that it's getting pounded by a canister. However, the cavalry is coming forward, and I'm sure I'm going to have to recall these skirmishers. How's everything else going? Whoa, there's a lot of Prussian infantry coming in on this unit here. And our skirmishers are getting run off. So it's a little weak over there. So this cavalry unit has kind of stopped and letting our skirmishers continue. And now it's this unit's withdrawing. It's lost its chance. Now it's just squares. All right. What's going on over here? Are you guys not going to form square? Because if you're not, I'm going to charge you. That's the rule, guys. If I bring my cavalry near you, you better form square. All right. Recall. Oh, they already retreated. No problem. They retreated before I could recall. It doesn't really matter. So what? They retreat. The cavalry can't pursue them. They're stuck in front of a square now. Oh, they're trying. They're trying. And, yeah, the cavalry made quick work of them. Alright, don't get too carried away, fellas. I know you're having fun, but, try and remember you're here to force units into square, not run them off the field. Oh, poor fellas. It didn't work. Yes, well, such is the problem of dealing with the fortress, isn't it? Take a hike. Are these bozos still running these units off? Come on. You guys are really glory-hungry buggers, you know that? Come on, get back here. Look, they got 286 points. Oh, you maniacs. What, are you going to run them back to Germany? Come on. Oh, look at this. This whole French brigade wants in on it now. All right, come on, fellas. Get back here. Lunatics. You gotta love the French cavalry, man. They'll charge hell itself. So now they got some skirmishers out, but again, they're in canister range, so they're not going to sit there for long. Blasting this square to... Jesus. Holy mackerel, these guys are getting wrecked. Still haven't been touched on the right side near Place Noir yet. Still haven't really been touched up by Papillotte. Where's Napoleon? I'm sure I'm looking for points here. What are we at? Almost 60,000 points. Double what we need for a major victory. The craziness is real. Check La Hassant real quick. Everybody quiet back here on the Allied lines. Just keep enjoying your siesta, guys. So now the infantry has fallen all the way back here, and the cavalry is like, my, what do we do? Now there was some more cavalry out, moving out even further. I don't know whether... They're kind of parked behind these trees now. I don't know what they're planning. Another square breaking. Another Prussian square breaking. Now, because there's no cavalry really here, I'm basically able to form line with impunity here. There is some cavalry here, and I would bring them forward if I were the Prussians to kind of force me into square. And the heroes are back. And we can start rescreening some of these skirmisher units got run off, so we can rescreen some of them. And we have another Prussian regiment of 3 battalions coming in. Got a lot of more for you guys. Bring it on. We could do this all day. And another square breaking. So yes, 3 battalion regiment is advancing right up to the fortress. And at this point, there's nothing really but cavalry out here. This infantry unit has fallen back and is really not a threat at the moment. So I can basically stay in square and no problem. We're good. Reform these guys into assault column, mainly so I have my road behind the guns to keep doing the supply wagon runs. Again, the supply wagon runs are very important for the guns that don't carry a lot of canister. And look at these Prussian units just streaming from the field. If I were Blucher right now, I would be sending Wellington some serious hate mail right now. Like, what the hell are you doing lying behind your ridge while I'm getting murdered out here? So now these Prussian units have to decide what they're going to do here. Are they going to come forward and get blasted by canister? What are they going to do? Let's advance the skirmishers a little bit. And we've already started blasting them. And yes, we have Bowden's whole brigade up in as our reserve here, so we can start sending even more units into the fray. And the cavalry is attempting to come forward again. Come and get it, boys. We're ready. Like I said, we can do this all day. Alright, so here they come. They're already taking canister fire. Let's see if they're going to make a run on the skirmishers. It looks like they are. Recall. They stop and form line. And I'm sending my cavalry unit out on the on their right here. Let's see if we can make them form square. If not, you boys are in trouble. Oh, don't not form square, guys. Don't not form square. That won't work out in your favor at all. And there they go. Charged by the cavalry. Off they go. God, I live for this. Alright, so this unit is refusing to form square as well. Guys, listen. When you refuse to form square, you're not proving anything. Alright, these guys are a little winded, so they can't really charge. However, these guys can. Standing there and not forming square is not proving anything, fellas. It just means you're going to get run off, just like this. So what a train wreck that attack was. Alright, so the Prussian cavalry is starting to advance now at this point, so they've chased off some of our skirmishers here. But we'll form square. We'll form square and block the road here. So reestablishing the fortress. and bringing a unit up in reserve. This cavalry is still coming forward. Oh, now we got the cavalry in the woods coming. That's a lot of cavalry. Come and get it, boys. I would love to hand you a stinging defeat. So again, this unit is stuck in square because of this cavalry squadron. We're blasting them with line units, with artillery. I think this unit is out of ammo. Yep, but we got a supply wagon coming forward. We'll re-ammo them up and they'll start shooting at this square. And this unit is just getting ripped apart by the close-range artillery fire here. So is this one. And they're also getting fired on with line infantry. Man, I love this stuff. Alright, so we can pull this cavalry unit back. They've run off this unit, and they forced this unit into square. And I think we're going to screen this unit with some skirmishers. That would be what I would guess. And that is the plan. Good. Now here we got an interesting situation. I have to stay in square because there's cavalry here, and we got a line infantry unit here. So let's see if maybe we can make them form square with this cavalry unit. That would be what I would think I would do. Obviously I'm dealing with what's going on over here right now. But these guys are trying to come forward. That might have been a mistake, Rob, not paying attention to what's going on over there. This doesn't really require much attention. They can't do anything. And that was an interesting situation developing over there. Now it's different when you're watching the game than when you're playing it. Sometimes you miss stuff while you're playing the game. I'm no doubt noticing that there's a whole lot of cavalry coming forward here. However, like I said, without infantry, they can't do anything. But over here, there was infantry approaching in column with cavalry. I would really go over and see what's going on there. The only thing that can break a fortress is lack of paying attention, guys. If I'm not paying attention, that could be trouble. I'm trying to withdraw this cavalry unit because it's pretty winded, but this unit has formed line now. So, are these guys pretty winded? Yeah, they're pretty winded. They can't charge. My, that is a lot of Prussian cavalry coming forward here. But, like I said, there's nothing they can do. They can't get by these squares. So, okay, I'm trying to screen this unit now. There's no Prussian cavalry nearby. The square is breaking and running. Oh, look at all this. Yes, come and get it, boys. Fresh fortresses just waiting to eat you up. Love it. Oh, I hope they just come right down and get in on this. This is a hungry fortress right here. They've been sitting here waiting for an hour, trying to get their hands on something. Feed the fortress. So this whole center has pretty much been cracked open. Alright, this square is in trouble. because this line unit here is definitely ripping into them. They haven't lost too many men yet, but we need to move this squadron out here and force this unit into square, so that you don't want the line to be able to fire at the square like that for too long. It's okay for a little while, but you don't want it to keep happening. Oh, see, these buggers aren't forming square because they've got their cavalry with them. And they're like, nah, go ahead, charge us. And we got a skirmisher unit retreating. It happens. Ain't worried. Alright, so here comes a cavalry charge. I've recalled the skirmishers, but yeah, this is, I really let this part of the fortress here get left open. So we have to charge, and we have to charge this unit before it gets to the guns. Because that was my mistake. I did not clear up this part of the relock this part of the fortress down, and now the cavalry is attempting to charge the guns. We can watch the flags to see if they actually get any. Does not look like it. Does not look like they got any guns. We have formed square. We're pulling the guns back. So yeah, one minor mistake there, guys. That was my fault. I did leave the left part of the fortress unattended, and I did not reform it. And as a result, a cavalry squadron was able to get in between the squares. So what we're gonna do is pull this fortress back. We got a square right here. Turn this into a square, and make the fortress back here again. This Prussian cavalry is gonna get wiped out now, because you don't melee squares, dummies. Honestly, props to the Prussians for that. They saw an opportunity and took it. They didn't get any guns, but they took they did their best. All right, so the Prussians have been driven off. We didn't lose any guns. We can bring them back up. And once we clear this out, we can kind of reform the line. However, while this gun battery is reforming, this square is getting murked by this, it's getting absolutely worked by this line unit. You can see it's lost almost the whole front and some of the side here. And they won't form square because they've got their cavalry right there too. So they're basically saying, go ahead, charge us. And I'm not really willing to do that. And over here we also have squares being caught by line units here. These guys have lost a lot of men. They had like 150 points at one point. Now they're down to like 30. So they're really getting worked. And these units are now far enough away that the canister is not really putting it to them. But they have still yet to crack the line. They made a little dent in it, but they have not cracked it. And actually, I think that was the high water mark for the Prussians there. That's about the best they do. Well, you know, this cavalry unit could just run into these skirmishers right here and really take care of them. So now this line is advancing, probably getting ready to finish off this square. So we have a reserve unit here. Yeah, they're advancing to close range, so they can really put a wallop on this square. Now that they've moved closer, maybe I can charge them, but they're bringing their cavalry up to keep them right behind these lines. Artillery is actually putting in good work on these skirmishers. I'm trying to get these guys out of here. Or I'm just reforming them into a better square. What am I doing here? Nah, I'm reforming them into a square with more men facing forward. But these guys still will not form square. So this is definitely the hard area to deal with right now. This unit is going to get wrecked very soon. And there we are, guys. 1830. We only have 2 hours left of the battle, which will be in the next video. So like I said, we got to cover a good chunk of this fight, but there's still more to come. Yeah, so definitely I think this was worth waiting for. This is kind of an epic slaughter of the Prussians here. All right, guys, the final part of the video should be up of the battle should be up in a few days. Take it easy, fellas.